palm oil, palm kernel, and export trade in tin, cotton, cocoa, groundnuts, palm oil, and so on. The question to ask on this day of celebration: how has corruption and bad governance in turn prompted a societal menace in which terrorist activities have thrived in Nigeria? And of course, does neocolonialism stimulate corruption and bad governance in post-colonial states like Nigeria? Talking about that, I had a deep chat with Commodore David Nabeda, retired, and Captain Atanda Fatai, retired, on what they think of 2022 Independence Day celebration. Take a watch. All right, it's Independence Day celebration in Nigeria, and of course, there's just this deep solemnization and reflection about the state of the nation by most Nigerians, and they keep asking, are we truly independent? On a global perspective, I would like to hear from you. Are we truly independent?
Right. Nigeria was granted political independence by the British in 1960. Today makes it 62 years. And we were granted that independence so that we can politically take charge of our affairs in every respect, politically, economically, socially, or otherwise. But if you look at what is really happening and the real facts behind the matter is that independence was nominal. It was only in name. It was not really in content or in spirit. And a clear manifestation of our dependence rather than independence is because virtually every critical decision that affects our national life is not determined by our people or by our leaders per se, but by foreigners. And that is why, for instance, you could see that even of recent, America, Britain, and some very powerful foreign countries were telling us whom we should support when it came to the issue of the crisis between Russia and Ukraine. We don't tell America who to support or who not to support, but you tell somebody who you think you control who to support and who not to support. But more than anything else, let's even look at from the political perspective, for instance, economic perspective. Oil was found in Nigeria in 1956 in Olebiri, and they started producing then. 66 years ago, we still lack the capacity as a nation to independently explore, produce, refine, and sell this oil at our own price and terms. It's a clear manifestation of economic dependence. 3, even in terms of our capacity to take political decisions that affect our strategic interests. We have people from outside who tell us line to toe and line not to toe. So this is clearly a manifestation of a dependent system rather than an independent one. But please get me right. The world today is a global village. We all depend upon each other. But there are some people who direct and decide the strategic directions that others follow. We are in no position to do that. And that's why the IMF, for instance, can come and start telling us how we should structure our economy. They don't tell the US how to structure our economy. They don't tell Britain or Germany how to structure their economy, but they have the nerve to tell us that because they think they control us. So that independence is nominal. And that's why some of the problems that we have in this country are what we are faced with.
All right, so let me go over to Africa's security threat analyst. Are we truly independent?
Well, I just like the language the Commodore used. He said nominal, but more so, he also said one word that I appreciate, and that is that the world is a global village. We depend, from the military perspective, we depend on military assistance for operations. We cannot run away from it. Every country has its strengths, weaknesses, and you look at where you have your strength and exploit. You look at where you need support. At one time, we had one of the best peacekeeping, armies. We had troops who went to Lebanon. We had troops who participated in the ECOMOG, divide the operations in Liberia, Syria alone, and we are well commended. The Americans also came over here to ask, how did you guys do this? So, on the very serious side, there's hardly any complete independence anywhere. But concerns have been raised over whether we are reached that level of independence we should have used by this period and time, considering the years run past. But that is okay. Another question for a lot of areas to look at. You talked about the economy, you talked about development, you talked about technology, and I just offline, he was just talking about what used to happen many years ago when you had Steer in Bauchi, I think you had Peugeot in production, and a lot of vehicles were coming out.
I'll come back to that much later. You talked about not being in control or in content or in spirit when you were trying to analyze the state of the nation. What do you mean by that? Not being content or spirit? Could you elaborate more?
You see, what defines independence for a man is the capacity to act on your own. Right? You don't need anybody to tell you what to do, and you do it. Because that is what you think is in your best interest. But once you are made to operate within the prism of somebody else's judgment, and you tailor your actions to suit that person's considerations rather than yours, there's no way you can describe yourself as independent. I think one of the most tragic things that has happened to us is the fact that even mentally, intellectually, we've not been able to acquire the capacity to think independently and be creative independently. Please get me right. Since the evolution of mankind, man's development from one level to the other has always depended upon the totality of the cumulative effort of man generally. But then we reach a stage where certain people lord it over others, exploit them for personal advantages. We so happen that right from the time we came in contact with the West, or the white man as the case may be, ours has been a master-servant relationship and has been deepening ever since. To the extent that today, even in the way we perceive ourselves, the way we articulate our needs, the way we conduct ourselves is shaped by what these people remotely control us to do.
Okay, explain what you meant by direct and strategic directions of what we should do. You were actually trying to explain about like an external direction from some set of people over to Nigerians. And would you elaborate more on that?
Now, let me just take for an economic perspective, for instance. Somebody tells you to devalue your currency. On what basis should I devalue my currency? I have strategic natural resources that are sought for by everyone in the world. I have a very huge population that is very productive and can do a lot of work. All right? I have vast arable land. I have so much resources. And yet, my economy is deemed to be so poor that somebody else will come and tell me that I should devalue my currency. And I don't have any option but to do that. Even when I know that invariably it will spell hardship for my people. Anybody that finds himself in that position can never describe himself as independent.
Okay, all right. Captain Atanda, you made mention of Americans coming to Nigeria and then asking how we actually did it during the economic time. Now, there seems to be a huge gap. Of course, we are having this insecurity for years in Nigeria, and obviously no one is coming to ask, how do we do it? Because we're not doing anything. What would you have to say about that?
Well, I'll just tell you that times change. Warfare is dynamic. Today we were dealing with terrorism. And this is what was not part of our way of life, and we thought we had, overgrown things like that. But today, you have illiterates. How it has happened from different directions and all that. You have people who are not even learned, people who are not taught warfare, fighting against, using weapons very effectively. And this is what you get from poverty, illiteracy. This is what you get from all the issues related to what we have today on the ground. You have people who have their wealth in their backyard, but are still fighting themselves. There's so much of psychological warfare. There's so much of different types of, you can't even find out, you need to even think twice, look back and find out why are all these things happening. When we have all this, you just mentioned the wealth we have everywhere. Everything is here. Arable land, we have natural resources and all that, but we still have issues. So we must look for a solution to getting this done. And that is when you talk about the independence you're talking about. We are independent enough to go to have our children go to school, independent enough to have our children not even pay fees. We are independent enough to ensure that even when we have ethnic divides, we have a way of resolving these issues. So it's a very, very critical period for this country, and it is also very important that we just come into the Independence Day with elections also by the side, and you can see the tension. It's not evident, but it's not on. You can see the tension. You can feel it. That there's already tension. Through speeches by very, very, respected community leaders, it is important that the states go back, try, and community leaders, all of them get involved in ensuring, religious leaders, all of them get involved in making sure that they don't create tension that is not necessary.
All right, talking about politics, because you just mentioned politics, I would like to ask, if we subject many factors down the lane over 60 years, compared to today, and of course in the spirit of independence, would you say that we have the autonomy of political independence? Are we politically independent?
No, we're not. And I'm saying that with every sense of responsibility. Yeah, people can line up, political parties can form, people can go canvass for elections, and people can go out and vote, and then at the end of the day, a leader is announced. But what's happening? How does that even play out? In the first place, let's look at the basic structures of what we call our democracy. Look at the political parties. Are these really mature organizations that are capable to throw out responsible leaders? When individuals crisscross political parties, you jump from one political party to the other because your fortunes are not well served. They don't even have any system of thoughts, ideas that they can put together to justify why they want to accede office. So people just want to access office for the sake of the resources they can come, leverage upon, and use it against others. Finish. So, yes, we hold elections, people are elected, but the basis upon which these people emerge, who are these people? What is their antecedents? What do they represent? Do they even have any idea about what it takes to be a leader in a very complex society like ours? Have they shown that capacity? When people are talking about ethnicity, people are talking about religion, people are talking about other primordial issues rather than the concrete things that makes us all human. Is this the time that people will be talking about whether one party is having people from one religion or from one tribe or one region and the rest of it? We are looking for competence. We are looking for people who have the capacity to deliver, move this country forward, make our people live a life that is worth living. The resources are there. Why should there be so much poverty? Why should there be so much conflict? Why should there be so much confusion when we have so much at our disposal that this country should be an envy of everyone in the world? It's because we have a bunch of people who don't even understand what it takes to run an independent country and give people what they truly deserve. It's not ethnicity, it's not religion, it's not section. It is the capacity of the individual to serve and serve well. And that's what we don't have.
Okay, but most, like a lot of people would always say, presidency should be given to these people, presidency should be given to that people, it should be going to the south, some would say no west, some would say no north, it's not time and all of that. Who determines all of that?
Well, this is the kind of thing which I normally talk about. You see, the mere fact that a Yoruba man is president does not mean that every Yoruba man is very okay. If you have an Igbo man, are you supposed to only cater for the interests of the Igbos? When you converse for elections, you ask for everybody to line up and vote for you, meaning that you are supposed to serve all of them, irrespective of who they are. So if that is supposed to be the basis, why should now my ethnicity, my religion, or the part of the country I come from be an issue? Because the most important thing is, can I go out there and invest and make money to take care of my family? Can I go there and farm and produce goods and sell unfettered? Can I go there and live my life without anybody giving me any stress? That is what we want. Create a noble environment where everybody will achieve his own and natural God-given growth and potentials. That is what we need. So all these people who are flaunting all these issues, they are completely empty. Those are not the issues. They are diversionary because they don't have anything useful to offer. Anybody that leverages on religion, leverages on ethnicity, leverages on sectionalism as a basis to accede political power is empty. He has absolutely nothing to offer. Quality leadership. Okay, even if you came from a particular ethnic group, don't you have a village? Don't you have a community? Are you only going to serve your village and your community? That is bankrupt leadership. That's not leadership. So all these people who are canvassing those issues are completely empty. They are bereft of anything that will take this country anywhere.
All right, Captain, let me come up with you. In Africa today, Nigeria is considered to be the giant of Africa. And a year from now, after independence, of course, we'll have a new leadership, president and all the rest in Nigeria. Security-wise, what would you expect, or how would you expect Nigeria to be strategized when it comes to security?
I can assure you that everybody is watching Nigeria. Nigerian elections are elections for the continent in itself. There's bound to be a lot of tension that we are already seeing. There's bound to be a lot of fears. There's also bound to be what we also, we are seeing it, we are reading it in the papers, a lot of social media stuff. There's a lot of that in the air already. So it's bound to be expected. And we have, what I can say, a capable military, a capable police, that and other paramilitary services. One thing is, you can be rest assured, Nigerians know how to work together when it comes to challenges, when they realize the challenges. So it's an alert already that yes, Nigerian elections, intensive. How do we sort it out? And I'm sure in the boardrooms of the Nigerian police, the DSS, and other services, and even the military, if they have to come in to ensure law and order, they're all on their toes. They are all looking ahead and preparing for challenges, and the expectations are quite high. And I expect that the INEC also are very concerned about this and will seek all the support they need to be able to run a successful election.
Probably I may just add something if you want. Nigeria is a very, very important country in the African continent. It is a country of over 200 million people, and the population is rising so fast. As a matter of fact, in the next 10 to 15 years, Nigeria is going to become one of the probably most populous country on the earth, if not the fourth, probably the fifth. That's a very important issue. In Africa, right from the time Nigeria became independent, Nigeria has always been a very important country to be reckoned with. And so when Nigeria speaks, it's deemed to represent the interest of Africa. So the outcome of these elections, the stability, progress, and development in Nigeria is bound to be very important for global interests. We're talking about over 200 people, 200 million people. If there's any major crisis, conflict, the number of refugees that will flow out of this will overwhelm not only Africa, but the whole of Europe and other parts of the world. Look at what they are battling with what happened in Libya. What's the population of Libya? And the spillover of the climate effect that has devastated many countries in terms of their productive capacity to support their population. So they're economic migrants flooding to Europe and overwhelming them, and it has become a major political issue for them. So if you have a conflict in Nigeria that could warrant the movement of tens of millions of people out of the shores of Nigeria, you can imagine the devastating impact, not only on peace and security in Africa, but globally. So, Nigeria is of strategic importance to the entire world. And so what happens here is of interest worldwide.
Okay, let me ask, let's explore economic environment.
Yeah.
Like you rightly said, we used to be producers of so many things, but now we are now importers. What really changed?
That's the dependency we're talking about now. Because if you are reduced to be a consumer instead of a producer, it shows that you are dependent. You don't have the industrial capacity to produce goods, because that's what really attracts wealth for you. If you produce, you can sell at your own price. And so these guys, they have reduced us to just consumers who just consume goods that they produce, even though the resources, the basic raw material that is used for industrial production comes from here. But at the end of the day, we'll be reduced to just consumers who have to buy these same goods that are made with resources that came from our own environment at tremendous high cost. So what happens? The trade imbalance has created inequality. So our income is declining as theirs is climbing. So we're becoming poorer as they're becoming richer. So perpetually we are mired in poverty. It is the dependence that has created this, and it is deliberate.
Would you mention some of those things that Nigerians were actually producing before?
Absolutely. I can give you a good number of them. For instance, we were virtually independent in producing textiles. We had textile mills in Kano, Kaduna, Lagos. They were producing vast amounts of textiles that were not only meeting the needs of our people, but were even sold in Africa all over. Okay? But today, there's hardly a single factory in Nigeria that can produce textiles to meet the needs of even one local government. All down. Go to Kaduna. Go to Kano, Sharada. Go to Kaduna, Kakuri. Go to Port Harcourt. We are producing tires, Michelin, glasswares. Nigeria at one time was producing, Peugeot factory in Kaduna was turning out more than 340 units of vehicles per day. Ibadan, Leyland, Bauchi Stair trucks. All right? We are producing many of these products. What about paper? We had the Jeba paper mill. It's down. Alumaco. Even the Ajakuta steel rolling company that was supposed to give us the capacity of producing flat and roll mill, steel products. That is the basis of industrial activity. It's down. So how can you produce? You can only consume. And no matter how rich in resources you are, if you are a consumer, you are at somebody else's mercy. And that's where we found ourselves today, unfortunately.
Captain, I would like to ask your vast insecurity when it comes to Africa's security trends. And for Nigeria, we've had this issue of local government autonomy. I would like to know, the issue of local government autonomy, has it in any way affected the security of the rural communities?
There's a kind of autonomy that local governments have, but they don't have their own armies. It's the same story we're talking about state police. Because when the issue of state police came in, it was supposed to supplement the efforts of the center. But there has to be a synergy between both parties, and that's why Today, we're not even talking about state police. We're talking about some states having their own Amotekun. We have people coming with Lautma, different kinds of not even they're not even paramilitary organizations that have no clear function or acceptance by the government, but you find them fully there. You find them, and today, if you look at the Amotekun, they look almost more dressed than a regular.
They're functional.
Yes, yes, they're functional. But you see, the important thing, and that's why I'm just happy that what the government has been doing, especially the state governments, part of the local government, is that they've been ensuring that they use people who are, perhaps most of them are ex-military. Okay. There are people who are vetted. They can at least account for some members who are, but if this is not well taken, it will be abused. And that's why there's an issue going on whether they should be allowed to carry automatic weapons or no automatic weapons. It's a source of worry. Yes, because if you talk about an AK-47, that's a combat weapon. Yeah. It's purely military. Very military. So if you want to authorize this organization to have it, well, road safety, they're having issues on the road, but they're not allowed to carry weapons. And
next year, independence, we would be 63 years old, and let's take a look back at 2022 and 2023 coming forward. What would you like to see or expect of Nigeria in terms of security that would affect global peace and security?
Yes, like I told you, Nigeria is a very important component of global security. As a matter of fact, Nigeria has played a very important role in peacekeeping operations, whether it is in Congo, Lebanon, it is in the former Yugoslavia, name it. In fact, Nigeria, alongside India and a few other countries, as one of the countries that has contributed the greatest in promoting world peace through the ambit of peacekeeping operations under the United Nations. But here today we have challenges. So, when we talk about Nigeria's capacity to contribute, we have a fantastic armed forces, well trained, very disciplined. I was in Liberia, we were there, and I know how much our troops contributed in stabilizing that area. And here we are battling with insurgency in our country and seemingly unable to perform. Military operations is not just a technical thing that you pick a gun and go and shoot people. It's much more complex than that. All right? There must be synergy, like you said, between the government, the people, and the people that bear arms on behalf of the people. And there must be constitutional clear-cut provision. Why you call a country sovereign, independent, is because you have state apparatus that can only be controlled by the central government to enforce law and order. And that's why nobody can just go and pick up arms. And any state where you find disparate groups, non-state actors, going to pick up weapons to challenge the established order, then there's a serious problem. Okay? We hope and we pray that by 2023, that the security situation will become even much more stabilized, and that we'll be able to grapple with some of these challenges, because make no mistake about it, the problems are going to get more serious. You know why? If not for anything else, climate change. Sahel region is undergoing a serious dry spell. There's drought. People are forced to flee, and they'll go to where they can find survival. So that population shift is going to create pressures that can lead to conflicts. And that's what is even driving some of the conflicts that we're witnessing in Nigeria today. Now, if that is the case, do we have the capacity to manage these problems? And where you don't have the capacity, there's going to be breakdown in law and order, because people struggle to survive. And when people are endangered, they can do anything to survive. So that's why you need governance. People that can make sure they know what it takes to take charge and to deliver what is required to make the people have a sense of safety and security. But you must provide them what they need. not marabouts and all these carpetbaggers who are just there to steal and tell us that we are different from each other because we speak different languages or because we don't worship religion, God in the same manner. We don't need characters like that. And that is what we have, unfortunately. Unfortunately. We need good governance. You hear about ungoverned spaces, no health, nothing. People are left to their own devices. Why wouldn't there be problems? Why wouldn't there be crisis and confusion? So that is what we need. We need an effective person or an effective group of people who know what it takes to run a country and to deliver what it takes to bring about development. People are visionary, people who understand what it takes to meet that challenge. Not people who just go and talk rubbish, assume power, and then use it for their own personal aggrandizement. No.
Okay. All right. Over to the African continent, how would you want Nigeria to measure up in terms of security?
Well, it's all over. Watching Nigeria, a lot of people will see what we've done, how we've handled us. Examples.
Where would you want Nigeria to really focus on when it comes to Africa's national security?
The first place we'll have to think of our own selves first. We must ensure that this country is safe all through the elections. And whoever appears or comes up as the president will also ensure that he knows that, in fact, it's an open, security is a very important aspect of the elections already. So it's being used.
So are we supposed to be happy on this independence celebration?
As long as you're alive, you should be happy. You should be very optimistic. I mean, you shouldn't be despondent. Human communities have always faced challenges. Let me tell you, it should be. You're alive, you have ups and downs. But you don't go and lie down and then you start crying and say, oh, I'm having issues today. No. But it should energize you. It should energize you. Yes, it's a challenge. You know, when you have problems, there shouldn't be obstacles. They should give you that opportunity for you to scale those challenges to achieve the opportunities that are waiting for you there. That's what the leadership is supposed to galvanize the people to be. All right? So we need people who are conscious, who are responsible, who know what it takes to offer good quality, self-sacrificing leadership. We need servants, not leaders. Unfortunately, what we've been having are dealers, not even leaders. And probably to say something about what Africa should look up to. I told you Nigeria is a very important player, not only in African continent, but globally. In Africa, if Nigeria speaks, every country will sit up and listen. So Nigeria is very influential geopolitically, a very important country. Not even for the vast size of the people. For every one black man in the world, 1 is supposed to be a Nigerian. That's how big we are. And that's why up to today, they're still fighting to be in charge of our resources. So we need to galvanize other countries so that people can work together to make sure that the resources of this continent are used for the development of the people of this continent. So we must inform good leadership. And we start from here, it will spread out.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
My pleasure again.
Well, this is where we come to the end of today's exclusive show. Nigeria with its complexity and insecurity, regardless, it is worth celebrating. Happy Independence Day, Nigeria.